Link showing channel here over at SubStars. So it seems like everyone involved in this story is just a horrible person. The one Bounding the Comics article fluffs this guy up, and then this different website talks about his failed acting career and is just going after this guy because he went after Zegler, who I guess is their hero. It's like, well, to be fair, most actors have failed acting careers in Hollywood. So what's going on is they are lying about Rachel Zegler. So here's the thing about this producer's guy, Platt, publicly going after Zegler and what seems to be like a loosely forming agreement to throw her under the bus and let her take the fall for another Disney underperforming film, is that they're trying to shift the blame onto her for her simple Instagram post where she says she's on one side of the latest conflict, and they're saying that that one comment, Free Palestine, is what hurt the movie. Oh, and before we forget, perhaps remember how Gina Carano was treated, and Rachel Zegler doesn't get fired; she just gets a handler. So that comment was one of many factors that went into people's decision not to buy this film. The biggest evidence is that the past several Disney live-action movies, from their superhero genre to the animations, have lost money, and I think there's a lot of their streaming stuff is also underperforming. Woke is the general issue, even if it's not always the reality, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Woke is a perception now, and myself and others have a Pavlovian response where we get triggered when we see these POCs and roles that the roles are not for them, especially females being, Mary Sue characters, and it's just a stimulus response because the correlation is so tight to where you see who's the girl in the Star Wars, the Star Wars girl, whatever that girl's name was, Rey or something, where it's like, oh, she's a super space god Jedi, and she can do anything, and it's like the whole continuity and the canon of the story that came before doesn't matter because she's a girl, and we have to make her so much better than the men that the original trilogy, which gave rise to all this, is just going to get tossed into the shadows. And it's like, but that's the foundation upon which this is built. It's like, yeah, but that was really male oriented, and now we have women. So what happens is we just are refusing to watch this kind of stuff. And I know if a left winger was listening to this, they'd go, oh, touch grass and snowflake this and snowflake that, and it's like, yeah, all that is irrelevant because the only thing that matters is the bottom line is that we have this Pavlovian response to the perception of woke, and we're not watching the movies. And we represent millions of people because these movies are just burning money. So what happened was Godot, who is Israeli, obviously supports one side of this latest conflict, and Zegler, who's 24 or 5 or something like that, she supports the other because, that's like most young people do. It really shouldn't be a big deal kind of either way. The policy of, if there were, I don't know why they don't do this. Policy of the entertainment company might be, okay, let's just not discuss politics for either way. Like, obviously, you're Israeli, but like, just don't discuss the latest war. It's not that hard to refrain for 18 months from talking about a conflict for one side or the other. But since apparently that's not the policy, though she did get a handler after she was making these comments where, Gina Carano got fired, you're going to have people supporting both sides. The same thing happened with Russia and Ukraine. But this movie was a perfect storm of alienating both sides of the audience. And what Platt is doing here is manipulating the narrative and flat out lying so he can make people think that there's more support for Israel, when in reality the support is all over the place, and it varies probably mostly by age group and by race, because under 30 now in America is a white minority, and the brown majority supports, just in their mind, they just look at it as like they support other brown people, which is Palestine. And so the aging group that is disappearing, the aging white group, probably more Christian than not, were kind of supporting Israel, and they're aging out and not having kids. And I don't support either side of this because they both hate us, so I just hope they have a good time. So this movie had the amazing ability to alienate too many people to be successful. The younger demographic won't support Gal Gadot and the IDF, of course. And no, I don't think they've done the deep dives into this and carefully reached their decision. I think for most of them, they're just kind of following the herd, and both left and right wing people do that, though they're you're really upset when you dare suggest it. And where I look at it, and I see the history of Islamic colonization and violence and enslavement, and they deleted something like 700 to 800 million people over 1400 years. And you look at a map of the region, and it's all Islamic, which is odd because it used to be Christian and pagan, and yes, you had the odd Jewish tribes running around here and there. Now it's just all Islamic, except for one little tiny slice. My argument is, as much as it pains me to defend Israel, is that if the Christians want to go in there and do a little Deus Vult, go for it. Make those countries Christian again. So anyway, people hate Israel, but literally, and some of it is just like trend chasing. But literally, the entire region is Islamic via colonization, warfare, enslavement, and just the truly atrocities that they've historically committed. So something is not adding up. It's not a popular opinion, I know. So the younger crowd likes Zegler but hates Gadot, and some of the audience doesn't like Zegler's Palestine comment, but it wasn't that big a deal because the majority of Americans under 30 support Palestine. But the producer, Platt, is obviously Israeli, as is most of Disney, and the mainstream Hollywood narrative is going to be pro-Israel, where the actors and the younger audience are going to be against them, and I don't exactly support them. I'm just trying to lay out the argument fairly, even if I really don't like either side. So mainstream Hollywood is kind of walking a careful path, but the movie failed for the other statements of... the other thing about mainstream Hollywood, when I did this video, I never put it out because it's kind of tricky to do sometimes, with Indiana Jones Part 5, is Hollywood is not taking into account the rapidly changing demographics of the country as it's quickly getting less white, and that audience for movies is just simply disappearing, and they're trying to they're not understanding how to sell to a country that is essentially three countries in one. You can't, like Indiana Jones, stuff that sold in the 80s and 90s, that country is gone, and you try to sell to it, and you're just not going to have the audience like you used to have. Anyway, so the movie failed for the other statements of Zegler about how she hates Trump voters, and in every interview, she disrespected the original source material. Even the other actor, she was kind of rude to. So both actors alienated different demographics, and the changes to the Snow White story also hurt it because it's a classic story. All you have to do is tell the story. It's already written for you, and just retell it, and not get in your own way. But both of the actors just couldn't help themselves and got on there and took opposing sides in this discussion, and I guess people couldn't agree to disagree without becoming disagreeable. And Zegler gave several interviews that lost the movie millions. It wasn't just her support for one side of the conflict. That was kind of minor in comparison to the other things she said. But I also suspect that without her comments, it would still not have done well, because both actors had been in bombs. Gadot was in Wonder Woman 84, which was horrible, and Zegler was in West Side Story, which didn't have English subtitles for the Spanish parts for some reason, because the producer he wanted to honor the language that people didn't speak. Then you add in how sick people are of woke space communism, where, I mean, that's basically everything for the past 10 years is gay, race mixing, child sexualization, and people are really not into that. And they had an animation, I want to say it was called Strange World, where a mixed race couple is on some alien planet, and they have kids, and their kids are in a romance story, but it's a gay romance story. And at some point you can go, oh yeah, we don't have to tolerate this. Or you can say, you know what, those are just not our values. We're straight, and we value the atomic family. The things that have historically been true for various reasons. The reasons why we value what we do, you might be Christian, pagan, It might be other reasons, but the reasons don't matter. You can just go, yeah, these are not our values. Sexualizing children in gay relationships, and the left wing argument is always something like, well, what's the difference between straight kids and gay kids? It's like you can have a straight little cutesy romance. Yeah, you could, because those are our values, and gay children's are not our values, or gay adult relationships are not our values either. We don't understand that relationship. It's not adults is not necessarily abhorrent like the children would be, but it's just like that's just for a different audience, and it feels like propaganda. It feels like some sort of something else is going on because obviously it is, and people kind of see this and assume that Disney is run by demonic entities. It's probably closer to reality. I mean, when you look at Disney over the past 50 years and go, you guys have really changed a lot to where you're sexualizing gay kids. Why are you even discussing gay kids at all? I mean, how exactly does a kid even know he's gay unless it's from some outside source? Oh, that's well. Welcome to Weimar is what is this, predictive programming or something? The Ultra program. That's the new family friendly Disney is like race mixing kitty sodomy type of stuff. Most of us, might be okay with adults doing whatever they want to do as long as the unwritten social contract of try not to make waves was obeyed, but that kind of went out the window in the 90s. If you remember, was it the San Francisco mayor? I hope I don't get this confused. Was that Newsom in the 90s, mid 90s, where he got the judges to start doing marriages for a couple of months or something, and a bunch of people got married, and I think that was what got Schwarzenegger in office or something. That was a long time ago, but people on the right agreed to be kind of more libertarian as long as you stayed away from kids and society continued to function, and that social contract was upheld. But now society's kind of on the verge of a civil war because the left just couldn't go, you know what, we've accomplished enough, we're going to stop right here. We're not going to try to put this in schools with kids and all this kind of rainbow stuff. We're going to take the win and not continue to go after diminishing returns where we could possibly lose everything. But, they said screw it and put their foot on the gas, and we are where we are now. It's kind of like that complaint with Gamergate where the left doesn't understand how Anita Sarkeesian involving herself into games could cause a shift to the right 10 to 15 years later. And they go, oh, it's just video games. It's just race swapping. It doesn't matter, my guy. Well, then, why'd you go after games and movies if it didn't matter? I mean, if it didn't matter, you would have just left it alone, right? Nobody wants Concord or Dustborn or the Black Samurai having relations with men and women and then deleting them or desecrating Japanese temples. Black guy in Japan attacking Japanese people. Kind of weird optics. That all sounds insane to normal people. Or lectures on pronouns. None of this is real. This is all just the Holland flower bloom or wherever that was, it the Tulip Mania or something. Oddly enough, I have a book on that. I should probably correct that. Or the Little Mermaid is fair skinned, red haired girl. It's I don't know. That's not the Grimms. That's maybe Hans Christian Andersen. Grimm's brothers is what did this one, right? Red hair and green eyes or blue eyes are the world's ultra minority. European people are already the minority. And when you take blonde and red hair and blue and green eyes, that's, those are the marginalized and oppressed people just by the fact that they're less than 1% of the planet and shrinking daily. That is, go make babies, is what I'm trying to say. Go make babies. That's a classic European story, as was Snow White. It's literally in the name. Snow, Jared Taylor White. Instead, we get I don't know where she's from, Brazil or something, brownish girl. She's a very pretty girl, a little bushy, which is fine. A little fur won't hurt you. And then you get the Israeli queen, which, oddly enough, there was one scene where she asks for Snow White's heart in a box, and the hunter hears her request, and the look on his face, he's just horrified of this dark queen. So I'm watching them like that. Let me get this straight. The Israeli queen wants the heart of the little defenseless brown girl, you want to actually cut it out of her still beating chest. It felt like a crack in the Matrix is what it felt like. And the hunter in the 1000 AD German village is of course not German, very much the opposite. And the town is also, for some reason, basically looks like Brazil meets South Africa, or otherwise Los Angeles. And the camera kept cutting to a obese, not German woman dressed in European period correct clothing. The whole thing is just like an absurdist comedy where the theater is figuratively burning here, though I guess the money is burning. But it might be your taxes via U.S. aid. It's like they stopped U.S. aid, but did they stop the only U.S. aid, or is there some other backdoor for some of these movies to get made, or is it all just Larry Fink or Soros or something? I mean, the whole thing is absurd. Anyway, so this Platt guy is trying to shift the narrative that's supporting, and I think probably other people also picked up on this, but I don't think they want to talk about it on YouTube because it's kind of a lot of tricky things. He's trying to shift the narrative that's supporting Palestine tanked the movie because, of course, America supports Israel, but it doesn't, this isn't the 80s and 90s. Like I said, the demographics are different. The people in charge do, but the population doesn't. The demographics don't. And in a few years, that is all going to be overturned, is going to be changed as well, simply because it'll be people like AOC will be in charge. People will elect people who look like them. Anyway, so this movie bombed for a lot of reasons. You have two people who are not German. They don't look German. They don't pass for German. Snow White and Gal Gadot are very clearly not. They're not white people. Snow White, but nobody actually is. Anyway, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to shift this narrative. Disney movies have been losing money for a long time. And they're probably going to continue to lose money, or at least do things like The Little Mermaid, where it takes 2 years to come close to breaking even. They're like, oh, thank God we broke even. It's like, yeah, movies are supposed to profit. And if you had made The Little Mermaid with a Northern European red-haired girl, it would have made money right off the bat. Instead, it took you 2 or 3 years to just break even. That's a strategy for loss. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you over on SubScribeStar. Like I said, there is an article tier over there now.